Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're talking about an absolutely insane card. I think this is honestly potentially one of the biggest staples we've seen coming new to EDH for quite a while. I am incredibly excited for it. I need to pick up more copies. I've got it in one deck at the moment, which I can't even remember which deck I've got it in at the moment. I think I put it in my Bumbleflower deck, yeah. But it could honestly fit into half of my decks, and I really need to get more copies of it because probably I should do that before I publish this video just in case it goes up in price. But the card that I'm talking about here is the Giggling Skitter Spike. So this is a 4-cost indestructible artifact creature toy. Whenever it attacks, blocks, or becomes the target of a spell, so not an ability, a spell, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So a few big things there. As I said, not abilities. It needs to specifically attack, block, or become the target of a spell. So, you know, instant sorceries, etc. We'll talk about a bunch of things that'll proc it then. And it also deals it to each opponent. So previously, you know, we've had ones that do it to a target opponent or, you know, a target creature or something. This just does it to everything, and it's not even reliant on it being dealt damage or anything like that. It is, yeah. It also has Monstrosity 5. I'm not really going to talk about that too much. It's a great kind of ability for it to have, but it's not super important for what we want it to do. So this is coming from the Jump Scare Precon from Duskmourn. In that deck, it's okay. It's pretty good, but it really shines outside of that deck in just so many other decks, right? It's a new staple, I think. Pick it up now. It's only $5, which sounds like a lot, but it is like, I could easily see this getting up to $20, like the Charismatic Conqueror kind of thing, where, you know, it's this new card that came out in a precon only that just goes absolutely bonkers in so many decks, and this is easily one of them. It's only available in collector boosters or the precon. No extended art beyond, no special arts beyond extended. So it's going to be rare unless it gets reprinted. I can hear Jackson Jackson getting pissed off about set boosters right now. I know that he's thinking if only they had set boosters still. And to be honest, if we had set boosters still, you'd be able to get it from that. But currently, collector boosters only and precons. So it's a variant of, you know, Stuffy Doll or Brash Taunter. Both of these were reliant on taking damage, though, instead of other stuff. And it only dealt it to one particular opponent, whether it's, you know, Stuffy Doll, you choose someone, or Brash Taunter, you choose someone at the time that you're doing it. Stuffy Doll's just the same player the whole time. And, you know, it's also got that monstrosity tag on. It's just a better version of these, in my opinion. You guys might not agree with that. I think that it's a better version of these. It does, you know, it's not quite as reliable because it needs to be dealt damage. It's not dealt damage. It's whenever, you know, you attack, block, or spell. So it's got different variables in that regard, but it procs off of like, so damage is like this much, right? Like it's a decent amount of stuff, but this is like, I can reach out further because I've got more room now. So this is the normal version up here. As I said, about $5 at the moment. The extended art's around the same. As I said, please pick it up now if you want it, because it's going to be like, I know that I'm not exactly a big content creator, but I could, like, you know, people could be picking this up because of this. So make sure you grab it. So let's talk about some of the things that will trick it. Will proc it. So first up, combat tricks, right? So like in a Feather the Redeemed deck where you're casting instant and sorceries that target a spell, target a creature. So in that deck, you're targeting them specifically with, well, instant or sorcery. It doesn't need to be really combat tricks, but combat tricks work best. That means that you're targeting one creature with it. It's going to proc the Giggling. Really cool. And then you get this one back with the Feather deck. We've got Ivy, Gleeful Spell Thief. So this is, again, combat tricks. Kind of different because instead of it coming back at the, end step? At the beginning of your next end step, she instead copies them onto something and then onto herself. So stuff like Giant's Growth, right? Giant's Growth at the moment is green, give something +3/+3. Imagine if it was green, give something +3/+3, and deal 4 damage to each opponent for 1 green mana. Insane. Gaia's Gift, right? Gives it going to get reach, trample, and hexproof. So that's a protection for him. You know, because of the fact that he is indestructible already, so he's not going to die from damage, but he can still be targeted down with like exile and stuff. So giving him indestructible is really cool. You could also have like slip out the back kind of thing, where you give him +1/+1 and he phases out. Phasing makes it so that he's protected as well, especially even around like those exile board wipes like Farewell and stuff. We've got 1 damage burn. In a Grierson deck, this is insane. Because when he takes damage, as long as you haven't given him +1s or, you know, made him monstrous, whenever he takes damage, he's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. So now whenever you deal damage to him, he's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent, which then becomes 3 damage to each opponent thanks to Grierson. So something like Grape Shot in this, you can target your own Giggling with Grape Shot. Each time you cast it, you are targeting him. So then it's going to be like, you know, deal 1 damage, 3 out there, deal 1 damage, 3 out there. It's, yeah, you could easily win the game just by Grape Shotting your own Giggling Skitterspike. We've got auras here. So like a Killian Ink Duelist or any kind of aura deck, right? Auras are targeted. When you cast it, you are enchanting a creature and targeting that creature with the aura. So therefore, you're buffing up your Giggling by giving it, say, for example, this Sheltered by Ghost, giving him +1, lifelink, and ward, but then you're also dealing damage to each opponent with them. We've got Bellow. So Bellow specifically because he's an artifact. So artifact creature decks he goes bonkers with. But Bellow just naturally will make the Giggling Skitterspike into a 4/4 elemental artifact creature toy with indestructible haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, and then whenever it attacks, blocks, or it's just going to be bonkers. It's making him a 4/4. So he's just going to deal 4 damage out to everything. I need it for my Bellow deck. Oh, God. I don't even think I'm going to be able to get enough copies of this because I just need it for everything. We've got Miss Bumbleflower. So keeping your Giggling Skitterspike back to protect, because it procs off of blocking as well, is going to, 1, give you a chump blocker, which is indestructible, so it's not going to die. And 2, you're also just going to deal damage each time you block out. Right? And then you've got stuff like Rootcast Apprenticeship, which is in this deck, which you could buff him up and then create a token copy of him, because why not? Make people sacrifice things, whatever. But Miss Bumbleflower also gives him... You can put the +1s onto the Giggling Skitterspike, which is why it's in mine. It's not going to proc him because it's an ability, but then you can also give him flying. So now you've got a 6... Let's say you put 3 counters on him, right? You've got a 4/4 flying indestructible that's going to deal 4 damage each time you attack. You know, just keep chucking +1s onto this Giggling Skitterspike. It's my alt wincon in my Bumbleflower deck, which I really hope that I really hope no one's listening, because I don't want people to realize that and exile him. We've got stuff like John Aranicus. So I built a John Aranicus deck for my friend last Christmas. And while John Aranicus is obviously meant to gift stuff out to everyone, right? So you're gifting out a whole bunch of creatures. You can also then keep the Giggling Skitterspike. Don't donate it out to people. And then have it just in case someone manages to attack you with their normal creatures. Because obviously they're goaded, so they're going to have to attack other people. But once it gets down to, you know, a 1v1, or once it gets down to a 1v1, or once they have something that's not a creature you gave them that's goaded, then you're going to want to have your own blockers, and this is going to be a great blocker for this. We've got +1/+1 counters, so like something like Azuri Claw of Progress. I could list a million +1 counter decks. So I talked about Bumbleflower specifically as a blocker there, but even just a deck around buffing it up with counters is crazy. So you could get him to be huge, and then Champion of Lampholtz in those decks to make it so that he can't be blocked. So now you've got, let's say, a 6/6 unblockable that's going to deal 6 damage to each opponent each time you attack. And oh man, this card is cracked. We've got Abaddon as well. I'm talking specifically about Abaddon, not like a genre here of card, like a theme of cards, because specifically in an Abaddon deck, now all of a sudden you're dealing 1 damage each to each opponent each time you attack. That's 3 damage, instantly giving all of your cards now of mana value 3 or less Cascade. A very easy way to proc your Abaddon. It also works with Mutate. When you are mutating something, you are mutating it onto a target, casting a spell that is targeting a non-human creature. You could mutate onto this thing or mutate it onto something or whatever. Sorry, you have to mutate something onto it. And then all of a sudden you've got this huge flying freaking trampling thing that's dealing 20 damage each time you attack. I know that Ivy runs some mutate, like you have Ivy with a mutate commander sometimes, but just run it in your mutate deck. And now, you know, oh, crazy. Volrath is dumb. I'm not even going to talk about Volrath because you're going to make Volrath into a copy of it now. And now it's all of a sudden a 7/5. So some other synergies here. Make sure you subscribe. You know, I hope you guys are getting as much joy out of talking about how fucking dumb this character is, this card is, as I am. But make sure you subscribe. We cover all the news. We cover, you know, cards you should be picking up. We cover everything here. So yeah, you know, make sure you sub. So some other synergies, you know, we've got Dazzling Theater Prop Room, stuff that lets you untap, or gives you, or you could just give him Vigilance, I guess. Stuff that, so that way you can attack, then untap, or keep him untapped, and then boom, now you can block and, you know, get an extra procs from that. We've got give him Death Touch, give him Lifelink, I don't care. Death Touch if he's going to block or attack, or just give him Lifelink so that way each time, because he deals the damage when he, you know, attacks, blocks, or becomes a spell target, you are then healing, right? So Basilisk Collar now is, you know, 1, people aren't going to want to block this 1/1 Death Toucher because they're not going to get anything from it. And 2, you now, each time you attack, you're like healing for 3. We've got Chance Recognition. This is a board wipe. If you give him, make him big, or if you give him Death Touch, plus it's going to be a proc, right? And then also, he's going to basically deal double his damage to each opponent because he's going to do it naturally from himself and then from the Chance Recognition as well. We've got Helm of the Hopes. Just create a million giggling skitter spikes and then just do whatever the hell you want with them. Zinnia is actually, I didn't even think about that. Zinnia would be crazy with this too, because now for the low price of 2, you now have 2 of them. We've got Dollmaker's Shop or Porcelain Gallery. Now, he's not going to be able to proc Dollmaker's Shop because he is a toy, one of the very rare toys within the game. However, this second part here, now you've got this huge board. Oh, even my Balin deck. Even my Balin deck would be bonkers with this, with the Porcelain Gallery, because now he's, you know, a 10/10 that's going to deal 10 damage to each opponent each time he attacks, just because of the fact that I have 10 creatures out on the board. Stuff like Donna Noble, Fiend Lash, Blazing Sunsteel, essentially turning him into like a like giving him the stuff from the Brash Taunter, right? So whenever he takes damage, you're going to deal damage to a target player or planeswalker, to any target, or to target opponent from Donna, right? Like you could link him with Donna, which is hilarious. Like just imagining this giggling skitter spike on Donna's shoulder. She would be freaking the hell out. And then you're dealing more damage out to things, just wiping either other people's stuff or just dealing more damage to people's faces. Arc Bond, take advantage of him blocking, right? You block with him and then he's going to take damage, and now he's going to deal essentially like a Chancer's Ignition, right? Like that's essentially Chancer's Ignition with this card. Bonkers. We've got Death Rites of Wrath. Now, whenever a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. He is indestructible. So now you've got essentially like a pseudo Death Touch on him. Wild Defiance. So what is better than when you target a creature with your combat trick that gives something +3/+3? Well, now it's getting +6/+6 and also dealing out 6 damage to each thing. Yeah, insane. This card is absolutely insane. I assume other people have probably picked up on it, but I am incredibly excited about this card. I'm going to go have a look at my local game store and see if they've got any copies of it. Just like when I got a whole bunch of copies of the untap thing that we just talked about before. I think this is another one that's just going to be insane, and just so many different of my decks, or decks that I'll potentially even build in the future kind of thing. I hope you guys had a wonderful day. And again, make sure you subscribe and stuff, share the video around. We're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers at the moment. We're like almost at 8,000. Like we're this close to 8,000. So have a great day and goodbye.